Power-based athletes crave it. Strength-based athletes desire it. Aging men want to get a hold of that. What is it? Testosterone. Some of the most elite athletes in the world have naturally high test. And we're gonna go over some of the key habits that you can implement today to make sure that you can optimize your testosterone. The first habit is simple. Go to bed.
Please go to sleep.
So some of the easiest things that you can do is to just put down your phone. We've got to try to get about 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. That's what the best athletes in the world are doing to maintain those healthy scores.
I usually sleep like 7 to 8.5 hours a night, depending.
8.5 hours to 9 hours each night.
I would say between that 7.45 to the 9 hours is how long I usually sleep during training time.
And so if we just ignore our phone, ignore and decrease that screen time for the last hour to hour and a half of being awake, that's going to improve our ability to fall asleep. That's going to improve our overall sleep score, which in turn is going to help us recover. Decrease your screen time. That's going to help optimize your overall sleep patterns. Then you can get those 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night.
If I can turn off my phone and wind down by 8 p.m., I notice a significant difference in how long it takes me to go to sleep and how mentally healthy I feel kind of preparing for going to bed.
I usually try to get off my phone about an hour before I go to sleep. I'm a huge reader, so I usually end up reading right before I go to bed, which sends me right off.
That's the first key habit. We're gonna give you 3 more key habits that you can use to optimize your testosterone now as you work through that recovery to improve your overall performance. I can already hear everybody in the comments, Dane, that's not all elite athletes. And are your elite athletes even drug tested? Yes, they are. They're always drug tested by USADA on a regular basis, invading our gym, because that's a good thing for drug tested sports. We've had athletes who are drug tested 2 to 3 dozen times a year, who have testosterone levels at 1,400. And then we have other world-class athletes that can beat this individual who might only have testosterone levels around 600. And the whole key here is that we recognize that that homeostatic number, okay, that 1,400 or that 600, whatever that total number is very similar to height, meaning to optimize habits to keep our testosterone as close to that homeostatic number as possible, or if we can diminish environmental stressors, we can slightly increase that number. And some athletes do really well with 600 to 700 total tests. Some athletes do better with a little higher. Some athletes do better with a little lower, but it all comes back to that genetic component. So we've got to recognize that, and we have to understand that that's what these habits roll into when we're trying to optimize testosterone. Increasing testosterone is not as hard or as challenging as we actually believe it to be. If we talk about decreasing that screen time and then finding other stressors, that's gonna help us analyze our overall scheduling and then in turn, improve our ability to recover by diminishment of stress. Now, one form of stress could come through that organizational prowess. I'm a business owner. I own a company. I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. But at the same time, there's days that go by where I just think about work sucks.
Work sucks, I know.
At least it sucks compared to what you would want to do on the weekends. But getting organized is a great way to actually reduce stress. It lets you see what's exactly in front of you based off of your schedule, and then you can plan accordingly, which immediately is going to alleviate that stress. But that's a really hard skill to master. Elite athletes have extremely busy schedules, and if they can coordinate their time and their efforts as effectively as possible, that's going to diminish their stress, and they're actually going to be focusing on just what they want to do in that specific moment. And over a very long period of time, that creates a much more enjoyable existence, a much more enjoyable life, which is going to help you feel better and decrease your stress hormones, which can have a negative impact on your overall testosterone. So that main key factor is just getting more organized, understanding time management, and then using that as you work forward. Now we're gonna give you that next key habit that you can use to improve your overall stress management. Now, one thing that elite athletes do that might seem to be a given is that they work out. And the big factor that I have to ask you guys is, how active are you?
I'm typically lifting about 3 days a week now due to my hybrid schedule with work and training, and I'm throwing about 4 days a week.
I work out 6 days a week, so that's like 3 or 4 days of lifting, 6 days of throwing.
So I train 6 days a week, but within those 6 days, I do 9 different sessions because I train twice, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
What's cool about being active or exercising is that you'll have an acute response, which will increase your testosterone. Guaranteed. Researchers have found that physical activity has an extremely positive influence on mood. If we have a positive influence on mood, we will then have a positive influence on any type of stress hormone that might go up during your day. So you can actually manage your stress quite a bit better. That's why elite athletes who tend to work out very frequently also are able to hold that higher level of testosterone. Also, if they have a little bit more organization in their life, they can optimize that even further, which in turn leads to that higher regulated level of testosterone. Now, many of us don't have as much time to work out as elite athletes, but we all do have time to exercise and to stay active and build that lean muscle mass. I'm giving away one free Swole shirt to anyone who, one, has the highest testosterone down in the comments down below. 2, you've got to have all of your channel notifications active to Garage Strength. 3, you got to show up to our Tuesday public live to find out if you got this Swole shirt and indeed do have the highest test. All right, so getting sleep, reducing stress, making sure that you exercise. These are all key factors that now you're recognizing you've got to prioritize in your overall schedule. But you might be saying you're still a little concerned about what is stress reduction? What else can I do inside of my overall routine to help me reduce stress? And so let's ask some of these elite athletes, what are they doing to reduce stress?
I like to listen to audiobooks. I like to write some poetry. I like to create YouTube videos.
I meditate every day. I also just like sit down on my couch and stare at the wall.
Listening to music, hanging out with my family, my friends, my boyfriend, and laying on the floor with my dog.
Some people read books. Some people spend time in nature. Some people sit in a sauna. Some people meditate. Some people spend time with their friends. Reducing stress can come in a lot of different varieties, and the most important factor is that you plan periods of relaxation based off of something that you're genuinely interested in, based off of potentially a skill that you genuinely want to improve. That's going to lead to that enhanced level of relaxation, which in turn will have a positive impact on your T. Reducing stress can be as straightforward as just hanging out with your friends and drinking a beer. But a lot of mainstream culture expresses that when you hang out with your friends and have a beer, in reality, that ends up being beers. Alcohol consumption is a definitive way to totally tank your tests. And if you talk to most elite athletes, they're gonna tell you that in season, or when they've had their best seasons, that in season portion is when they're not drinking alcohol at all. They're avoiding that beer belly. They also make it a point to engage in very precise nutrition. They time their carbs well. They understand their fat consumption. They know exactly how much protein they need to have on a regular basis to optimize their recovery. Not only does alcohol interrupt our reproductive glands, it also has a substantial negative impact on your overall sleep. If you have more than 2 drinks in a sitting, your sleep will get extremely disrupted from that alcohol consumption. And maybe you've even been there before. A hangover will then keep you on that next day awfully inactive. And yes, I know drinking is extremely fun, but part of that fun is also going to lead to you chowing down on some greased up fast food, which is also going to have a negative impact on your overall T levels.
Carbs. gotta go carbs, but you also need that protein. So this is boring, but I don't hate like chicken and rice and avocado and maybe like some broccoli and cauliflower.
I don't always eat clean, but I do know when I'm not getting enough protein and when I'm not staying consistent with my creatine, I notice a huge difference in my training.
So one of the things that we tried to do when we designed our high performance nutrition program is that we started to look at, all right, what can be an optimized macro intake? And we were looking at if someone's a vegan, if someone's a vegetarian, if someone even wanted to focus on high keto or carnivore. And so if we can break down those specific macros and figure out that specific timing, that means trying to get at least 1.6 to 2 grams of protein. What meals should be weighted with what type of protein? When should we be having carbs? When should we be having more fats? And that's going to help us with our overall recovery. That's going to help us even with our stress reduction because it takes that point out of our planning. It makes it a little bit easier to attack the week of training, to attack those training sessions, which in turn reduces stress and optimizes your recovery and ultimately leads to that higher testosterone. Elite athletes practice through the avoidance of alcohol. They try to avoid that for an entire season. They also try to focus on eating those nutrient-dense foods. They try to focus on improving their overall nutritional habits. They make it a point to be organized, to sleep well, to reduce their stress, to partake in things that are going to help them optimize their overall relaxation. And this leads to them staying incredibly active and then dialing in their overall technique, their overall strength, their overall skill required for their sport. And in this way, the elite athlete is able to keep their natural testosterone high, which in turn also helps them keep that nice, sleek physique so that the world can gaze at and recognize, one, they look great, but two, they're also freaks. So do you want to be active and train like an elite athlete? Keep those T levels naturally high. We want to give you 5 free workouts so that you can learn what those workouts are going to feel like. You can learn what the recovery is going to feel like. You can learn what that stress management is going to do to improve your overall training. You can head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and you can download Peak Strength for those 5 free workouts. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.